put it in? Yes. Okay.
Wow, thank you all for coming. I am really surprised. This year we have a lot of stuff to go through because, as you know, like a billion new things were announced over the past year. Woo! Yeah, right? Persona 5, Get Hype 2014. Hashtag. As you can see, I'm alone this year. My friend Richie is a med student. He's doing his licensing exams, which are unfortunately way more important than a convention. But I hope I can give you all a good time, and we're gonna quickly go through the first part of the overview, which is just going over the games, which I'm just gonna go through quickly because if you came here at 9 a.m. to see a panel, you already know what's happened in these games. So we'll just quickly go through that, and then I will go through our new announcements for Persona Q, Persona 4 Ultimax, Persona 4 Dancing All Night, and then Persona 5, which we are all looking forward to coming this winter in Japan and then in 2015 here. And then I'll have some series lore about Jungian psychology, the tarot, and the arcana. And then we'll open it up to questions because that's the part everyone likes anyway. So we're going to go into series recap, speed run. First game was just Persona, and it was released in 1996 for the PlayStation in Japan and US. And it was also the first Megami Tensei franchise game released in the US. The art and design was by Kazuma Kaneko, which is known for he's darker, and you can tell by his Persona designs that they're much darker than Shigenori Tsujima's designs. But it's very much like a Strange Journey in that it's a first-person view that you're traveling in dungeons. And everyone knows that it had a really terrible, awful localization. Like, one of the top worst localizations I've ever seen in my life.
Mark Van's crazy.
Yes. As you can see here, I don't know her name, but
That's racist.
What? Yeah. Roses are red, zombies are blue, but my face is white, so you know that I'm true.
Wow.
I know. It's really bad. They changed all the names to be American. One character was turned into an African American, even though he was Asian to begin with. They changed, the game moved from Japan to suburban US instead of just keeping the location. Now, I'm not a complete boo person on changing the location to the US when you localize a game. If you've ever played any of the Ace Attorney games, they localize it from Japan into Los Angeles, and they do it really, really well. Like, you can't tell the difference in most of the games. But if you do it wrong, it looks terrible. So if you're going to do that, make sure you have some really good writers behind you. And yeah, because the Japanese think that their games are too hard for us silly Americans, they got rid of the bonus dungeons. They made the game much easier. They increased your experience drops and everything like that. And then this. The one on the left is what we changed it to, and as you can see, one in particular is terribly bad.
I wonder which one.
Yes, and as you can see in the original character art, they were white, yeah, but they were kind of tannish, you know. And on the left, they're like paper white, like you could reflect things off of them. And why is this necessary? We can understand that they're white to begin with. It's like super ultra racism plus, and
I think it might be brown.
But recently, they just released it for the PSP, got rid of all the terrible localizations, made it exactly like the original game, and includes all the quests, and has new music by Shoji Meguro. So if you want to if you want to have a laugh, get a ROM of the first game. If you want to enjoy the game, get this one. Then we move on to Innocent Sin, which came out in 1999. You play as Tatsuya Yasuo at Seven Sisters High, and the plot line the catch in that one is that rumors come true, as when you call your own number on your cell phone and you summon the Joker, who will grant your wish at a cost, because there's always a cost. And this was Persona 2 had two games to it, Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. And I really, really, really did try to play them, and I just couldn't get through it. It was too bright. But I know, I'm a bad fan. Yeah?
Wait, gray as in color palette, or gray as in like felt outdated?
Kind of both. I tried, but it didn't stick with me as much as the other ones. But I don't knock it at all. It has a much darker feel, and if you're into that, then I would say go for this. But I'm too happy and bubbly to get into all that grim, dark Persona stuff from 4.3. And that makes me angry. But if you move on, this is also this is the game where Zombie Hitler has his robot army and comes to invade Japan. Yeah, and this starts because people start rumors, and the rumors start becoming true. Who the hell started a rumor that Zombie Hitler was coming back to life and bringing his robot army to Japan to kill us all?
Sorry.
Some dude, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was probably him. Okay, whatever. And then we move on to Eternal Punishment. They came out in the Japan and US in 2000, and it picked up as Maya as the main character, who was a character in the previous game, and now she picks up as the main character. And so when people ever say, there's never been a proper Persona female protagonist, you can just slap this in their faces. But this is the only game where it hasn't been set in a high school experience. It was actually an adult experience. So if you want something different like that, I would suggest this game. And it's really different like that. But the unfortunate thing is that the PSP port that was apparently a lot nicer and better has never been released in the US. So if you want to play the game, you'll have to get the original copy off of PSN Network or something.
Which includes the mistranslated names.
Yes, so you'll have to walk through all that mistranslation. I don't know why they didn't localize it.
Money.
I guess. But
No, I think it was like some kind of issue with the programming used.
yeah, Atlas is usually really, really good about localizing everything.
They localized Entry and Odyssey, for God's sake.
Yeah, so I don't understand. But you can still get your hands on Persona 2 if you're hooked up to the PSN network on any of your PSP, PS Vita, PS3, whatever. And then we move on to the stuff that more people know. Persona 3 was released way later. There's been at least a 5 or 6 year break in between games when they released Persona 3. And it was a lot different. Shoji Meguro had joined the team, and Shigenori Sojima had joined the team with his art, and he had taken over from Kazuma Kaneko in character designs. So you can see in the design sense that it's very different from the first 2 games. They could have made it its own franchise, really, but it was still pretty close to the originals. As everyone knows, you play as a silent protagonist, and you have to solve a mystery revolving around the Dark Hour. And this is the first game in the series to use the popular social link system, which is probably right now the cornerstone of the system that everyone really enjoys the most out of the games. And I appreciate it a lot because, well, I enjoy dating sims. But then they released FES very shortly after. which is a remake with a little bit changed in the main game, but the main part of FPS that's different is the answer, which is after the game, which adds about 30 hours more of gameplay where you play as Ibis and you wrap up the loose ends in the narrative. Yeah. Because, well, okay, how many years has it been? It's almost been a decade. The MC dies and they all have to get over their grief of losing him, and that's basically what the answer is about. And I really like that. It was a really good story, and I like because the end of Persona 3 really left a lot of unresolved feelings in the ancillary characters, and I like to see that wrapped up. Persona 3 Portable was released later as a port for the PSP, and the main sell for this game was that you could be either a boy or a girl, and the story would change slightly depending on your choice. It was also, people liked it because you could, for the first time, social link with your male members of C's, even if you were a guy, because they gave you, they gave you different social links in the first game for like the Magician and the Emperor, who were like, Junpei and Akihiko and whatnot. So you couldn't social link with them, and people were kind of disappointed about that, so they changed it in Persona 3 Portable. But of course, because it's a PSP game and not a PS2 game, they had to cut some things out, like animated scenes, and they just rounded some corners with fast travel and whatnot. And it also doesn't have the answer from FPS, so if you want to play the part where you play as Ibis and you wrap up the feelings of the characters, you have to get FPS. But if you want to play as a girl, which is pretty fun if you're a girl, I would suggest getting P3P if you can find it. They might have it on the PSN by now.
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank God for the internet. Persona 4, my favorite, was released in 2008, like consecutively right after P3. It's known for its like warm retro appearance, while P3 was very like blue and modern and bold. Where you play as a silent protagonist going to live with your relatives, and then you get caught up in a murder mystery involving people jumping into TVs. And you thought the Dark Hour was kind of weird. This is just like zany. But the battle system, the HUD, everything was like really almost identical to P3. You could tell that they had just built on top of the engine that they already had. And it was a rush job. I would say that the original Persona 4 was a beta that they sold to us knowing that we would all eat it up. But, and then they released Persona 4 the Golden, and that was Persona 4 how it should have been. But, that's what Atlas does. They send us betas of games and then they make us buy the next ones. So yeah, moving on then to Persona 4 the Golden, released in 2012 for the Persona 4 Golden Machine, PS Vita.
That's what I use it for.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's a highly enhanced port of the original game, with lots of improvements in the battle system, gameplay, new cutscenes, new social links, bonus dungeon, lengthened game playtime through winter, more Persona, special features, blah, 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 blah. They added so much crap. I was like, why did they just do this in the first place? But I'm not complaining because I got more stuff. But some of the voice talent had to be changed because this is in Japan and people don't do the whole voice actor thing as a lively career. And we lost Chie and Teddy to two new voice actors. But pretty much everyone else they were able to get back, which I'm surprised because the time between when Troy Baker did Persona 4 back in 2008 and when Troy Baker had to come back to do 2012, he had gotten a lot more popular. So I was surprised they were able to get him back to do Kanji. And then Persona 4 Arena came out in 2012, which is a spin-off arcade fighter for PS3 and Xbox 360. And it's well known for being developed by Arc System Works, which is known for Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. If you play fighting games, that will mean something to you. It takes place 2 months after the end of P4 and it has its own storyline with like complete voice work. I was really impressed with the storyline. They're really long and like actually fun to watch and play. Usually storylines in fighting games are just throwaway and you're not really interested in them. And you could, along with your P4 characters, you could play as Mitsuru, Akihiko, Idis, and Elizabeth from P3. All in really cool alternate costumes, like the cat suit.
Super buff Akihiko.
Yeah, super buff Akihiko. He has like a gun and a combat knife and doesn't even use them in a fighting game. Alright, that's all the games for my speedrun. I think that only took me 15 minutes. That wasn't bad. So then for the animation, we move on to Persona 4 the animation, which was a full 26 episode animated adaptation of the original game that aired in 2011. And it introduced Yu Narukami as the official name. And there was a lot of jokes that came out at the time. When I think about you, I touch myself. Really, that was a good one. But it was a really solid adaptation. Like, it wasn't a bad adaptation. Because it's a really non-linear game with a lot of characters, like a lot of sub-characters to deal with. And they managed to squeeze in each one. And it had really good music and art direction, but the animation just sort of didn't cut the cheese. There was rumors that they didn't pay the animators. Well, or they didn't pay them what they promised they would pay them. And so the animators had people stop blinking. So there would be whole scenes where people in the background would just sit like, just not moving, not blinking. And it's especially bad with Kanji because he has those eyes. So he's just like, I'm so stoned right now. And his face looks like an angry potato, and it's just. So I didn't mind it. I could like take the adaptation, but watching the animation after episode 2 was just like, what happened? But whatever. I have buried the hatchet. And unfortunately, the English dubcast was really inconsistent. Halfway through the thing, a few members, Troy Baker, just dropped off the project. I'm pretty sure Gary Lowenthal just dropped off the project halfway through. And I'm like, that's lazy. Why even bother to do the dub if the actors aren't even going to stay through the whole thing? But it was by Sentai Filmworks, and they don't always do a good job with their dubs. And then Persona 3 the movie, which is a series of 3 movies being released in Japan right now. It's also a direct adaptation of the games, and now Minato is Makoto, so we have more names to deal with. But it has really high production values, excellent animation, more music by Shoji Meguro, and all the original voice talent. But it's a lot of game to be squished into 3 to 5 hours of the movie. So they pretty much cut all the non-C's social links, which is understandable if you're just going to make a movie. And it's not bad. I saw Spring of Birth, and the animation's really good. I really like the sound. So before I move on to the next animation, I have something I have to show you guys. I was a little surprised by this. See, recently, I think in April, they were telling us, we have a big Persona announcement coming up, and you guys are really going to like it. And I was like, Persona 5, Persona 5, Persona 5. And then, this is what they gave us.
first time.
Well, they did hire a different animation studio. I'll talk about it.
He blinked.
Yeah. Wait, look. My cosplay is relevant. Yay! Yeah, as you can see, it's going to start in July. This July. Unfortunately, that's all we know. That it starts in July.
Beyond crutches.
Yeah. So it's just so let's go on to that. Persona 4 the Golden animation. Persona 4 the slightly more shiny edition. It's a newly announced re-adaptation of Persona 4 the Golden, but it's by A1 Pictures, not the previous studio they used, who did the animation for several of the in-game cutscenes, which I've always admired, that were very good. So I'm hoping the animation will be better this time. Considering that it's coming out in July, which is when they usually start their 13-episode summer runs, I think it will be a 13-episode summer run. I might be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. And it's coming out in July 2014. We don't know exactly what it is. It could be an OVA. I don't know if it's going to redo the whole game, like it's going to start again at the beginning of the game and like do it over. I don't know if it's going to be like, oh, Narukami came back for his third year at high school at Inaba, you know? I don't know if it's going to be just them adding in the parts from the Golden that weren't in the original and just expecting you to fill in the blanks. I have no idea. Those are my speculations, but otherwise, it wasn't Persona 4. Anyway, are you ready to get hype? No announcements! I got more trailers for you people. I got trailers coming out of my ears. First we have one that I'm looking forward to.
Yay.
Yeah.